You're listening to the Caramel Apples Podcast, the apple snack that brings you a retro vibe, both crunchy and sweet, with your hosts, Kennedy Rizzo and Cooper Lee. So, we're going to dive into a really neat subject this week. We're going to be talking about something that we all know and remember well. And, like our entertainment was more raw and rough around the edges back then because, we'd listen to the radio, we had cassette tapes or VHS tapes, television.
Yeah.
Movies were good back then, but like that, we had to actually go and make an effort to have good entertainment. So you'd sit down and watch TV, which we did a lot. And like in the 80s and even into the 90s, what was one of the major mainstays that you could catch pretty much at any given time?
Well, here's a hint, because I'm sure you will vaguely remember because you mentioned tapes and this popped in my head. This is something we pretended to do
Oh,
while we
yes.
were using one of Dad's tape recorders. And that was the good old fashioned talk show.
Talk shows. You said it.
Yes. And we would take turns being the host and the guests.
Yeah. So for if we have like some younger listeners or whatever, like all the rage now on TV basically is reality shows.
Yes.
I mean, like they're following everybody on reality shows. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what it is now. But back in the day, that same trend was about daytime and even nighttime, but talk shows.
Absolutely.
And pretty much during the 80s and 90s, it seemed like anyone who could talk was getting his or her own daytime talk show. Like literally.
It's true. It was pretty bad there for a while. Because I'm
Yeah.
sure there's plenty that came and went that you didn't even know about, right?
That's how much. Yes, I agree. That's probably how numerous there were. So let's get right to it because we have a few to chat about.
So I would have to say, out of this group of listings that we were going to talk about,
Yeah.
one that I think that stuck and held true to class, probably the whole time that it ran, was Our Magazine.
Okay.
I remember that one when we were children because it started in the 80s, like early 80s. I think it was actually the year of 80 that it started.
Wow.
And I
Okay.
remember mom watching this one pretty faithfully. Like she'd watch that and she'd watch Big Valley, like in the morning. So, but the host, his name was Gary Collins. Do you remember?
I do remember Gary Collins. Yes, he had that like cover boy type look, Ken,
He did. He
like a
did.
walking Ken
Clean
doll.
cut. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think their show really like to link it to something like today would be similar to like The View or Rachel Ray. They would talk about issues of the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They would do like health segments. They would have celebrities on from time to time. And when we talk about celebrities back then, it wasn't like as huge as it got to be there for a while. Like
Right.
it was more about how they enjoyed doing the work and more about the show or the movie they had been in versus who they were as a person and
Who they're
their likes and
dating.
dislikes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The house they just spent billions on or whatever.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So um also I think they even had cooking segments.
Oh yeah, you always got to cook something up. You always got to whip something
Yeah, because I even vaguely remember him putting on an apron.
up. Because he's trying to connect with Jane Q, housewife.
Yeah.
keep them watching.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's a cool entry. So Our Magazine. So, any of you archivers, hit us back. Do you even recall what we're talking about with this particular one? Now, when we think about an ancient, well, no, I shouldn't say ancient. If we think about an early relic of what we're talking about when it comes to the realm of daytime talk shows, you instantaneously think about Phil Donahue.
Now I have to stop you there, right there, Kennedy. You didn't say ancient because he was all his gray hair, did you?
Oh, no, not at all. Sorry,
Okay.
Mr. Donahue. No, that's not at all. But like literally, he was the pioneer king of the talk shows.
Yes. Yes, he
And
was.
and he had a good following. Like he would showcase cutting edge topics and occurrences that would happen in people's day-to-day lives,
Yeah.
much like the other one you spoke about with Our Magazine, but um he would go into deep subjects like health issues, marriage, children rearing, dating.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Yeah.
they would even sometimes, like real tongue-in-cheek topics, like, I don't know, they talk about maybe religion or
Yeah.
politics and stuff like that. I mean, they would push the envelope a lot, just for, and the ratings would go up. So
Yes. And I remember how the camera would pan in on the host. Like they would get like a real close shot of his face, especially if somebody said something on the panel guest that he was kind of like shocked by. His my mouth would kind of be like, oh, you know,
yeah, because Donahue would get fired up. He
he
was
would.
not polite about something. If he didn't agree, you gonna hear it.
And do you remember he'd take off running across the audience to get to somebody that had a comment or a question?
He would. It's like, and this is back before they really did some editing. So
Yes.
spare the guy a couple of puffs of breath, and cut that out.
Oh man.
Yeah, Donahue was cool though. That was a
He
cool
was.
show.
Yes, that was definitely another one that mom favored.
So when we think of Donahue, that rolls into somebody else that was real close to what he was doing, but it was, a really iconic female, and that was Sally Jesse Raphael.
Oh, absolutely. Totally remember Sally.
Yeah, and she was a former tabloid talk show host, best known for hosting her eponymous show, Sally Jesse Raphael, or Sally, I think in the later years.
Yeah, yeah.
But we can see
Um,
her. You can't miss Sally. Like she had that blonde hair and those really big red rimmed glasses.
she is the reason that I got red rim glasses.
Oh, cool. You're nuts.
I know. I am so ashamed to say it, but she is the reason. So
I remember your school picture with those in them. Oh, wow.
blackmail much.
I got something on Coop now. She just handed it to us with
Right?
willful
Oh.
gloves. Yeah, but she had a pretty neat show too. And again, she beat it was like a all across the board type model that how they would present these shows, and she would stand in her audience, her live studio audience, and her guests would be up on the stage, up on the panel, and then they would ask and interact questions with the audience.
Yeah.
And she'd always have her microphone and she'd stand there with her little cards. And pretty much all the shows did this. They had their little cards with their name on the back so you know who you're watching.
You're right. Yeah.
And she did pretty good. Like she was on for a while. Like you're like, oh yeah, Sally Jesse Raphael. That's not a big thing. She was on.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then, she was an older lady and sadly, she started experiencing some personal tragedies, and one of them was finding the unfortunate diagnosis of cancer at 60. So
Ah.
it was soon after that, they pulled the plug on her show. So she had a good run.
Yeah. And that's sad that that happened. Um, because tragedy, it just shows it strikes everyone.
Hmm.
But I'm sure she enjoyed the time that she did have on TV, and connecting with guests and bringing issues up. for people, you know, enlightening people.
Yeah.
And I think there was another show that was kind of modeled more off of her, and that was Lisa Gibbons' show.
Ah, Lisa, yes.
Yeah, she always seemed to keep it real classy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think she would focus like on makeovers, you know, maybe the latest exercise routine, or which was
Yeah.
probably aerobics at the time. Get your leg warmers out, ladies.
Yeah, you're right though. I think more like she was classy, and catering to the more like soccer mom, the modern housewife at the time,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everybody wanted to be cool and edgy with, the latest fashion and makeup, like you said, and the trends.
yeah. And, you know, I think as far as our list goes, things take a turn here. um,
Really?
yeah, because just subtly though. You remember Montel?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. I remember, you know, he had a signature look. Everybody knew who he was. Because he was hairless by choice, I do believe.
Yeah, I think
Um,
so.
so no offense to him on that. But he also he kind of like what you said with Sally. He had some health issues that came to the fore because he was already um, dealing with tabloid esque issues. But
Hmm.
then after he had his own health scare, I think he did an actual show about MS,
Yeah.
focused in, you know, kind of zeroed in on that, you know, kind of letting people know what he was dealing with, but also, hey, you know, we're okay. We'll get through this together. We're similar, you know, that connection with his viewers and stuff.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
So I think though we did enjoy his show for a long time. And then he started bringing in a guest of a certain subject that some people find interesting. And we don't ascribe to this at all, but he kept having this guest come on, and they came on a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, you
Hmm.
know, it was like, I think he even devoted one whole day to her every week.
Oh, because her segments were popular.
Yes. So
Hmm.
she went from a segment to a straight up show all about her every week,
Hmm.
you know, and obviously we did not ascribe to that at all. So he got canceled in our minds before he was canceled online or on air, I should say.
Yeah, he should have just stuck to the charity, the research, and the awareness for MS, and other sufferers. I don't know,
Yeah, yeah,
but I mean, that's the kind of stuff that works. That's what sells. They want the viewers. They want the numbers. So I mean, they're gonna follow the numbers.
absolutely. Yep, yep,
Hmm.
yep. And he always had a studio audience full of people, so you
He
know,
did. I
yeah,
liked Montel.
yeah. But also, like we said, things started to take a dive with some of these shows. So that brings us to one of our favorites at the time was Ricky Lake. Do you remember Ricky Lake's
Oh
show?
my goodness, yes, that was like one of our favorites. You're right.
Do you remember how because we would go to New York. We have mentioned New York City quite a few times.
Oh, this was completely the catalyst to why we probably loved her show that much.
Oh yes, because her show was recorded in front of a live studio audience in New York City.
Oh yeah.
And Kennard and I had the goal of attending one of those shows at some point in time. Do you want to tell them how we did on that venture?
Okay, so when Coop gets something in her mind, it usually happens. So I mean, you could feel the surge of going that direction. We did get to New York many, many times, but somehow that venture didn't gel. It didn't happen. So,
It just didn't happen,
mm-mm.
sadly. But anyway, we it's not for a lack of trying.
Yeah, yeah, because Coop will put in the elbow grease. So trust me. But yeah, like I don't know, her show seemed very urban, it just had that cool feel to it. Like you just felt like you fell into that world for, I don't know if I can't remember if it was an hour. 45 minutes, something like that. Maybe it was a half hour. I can't really remember, but
I think it was an hour.
I know she solicited for guests out,
Yes.
in the public, but like it seemed like a lot of her guests were from that area, like Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and for us from the Midwest, that just seemed like another world. Like it was so interesting up there. Like we loved the East Coast.
We did. And
So,
I do remember in particular, we were teenage girls. So when I think she did it a couple different times. She went from, kind of the more serious shows she would focus on. And, she was already trying to bring in the young studio audience of viewers. But do you remember she showcased the calendar for firefighters?
oh, you can't forget that.
Yes. We were like, sign us up, please.
Oh my goodness, she had some beefcakes on that show. Oh,
Like you said, she followed the numbers, so she did it twice at least.
she did. She was probably like sitting there slipping them little pieces of paper in their palm by the time the show's end.
No doubt, right?
She's like, "Hi, I'm the host. I'm Ricky. Forget the viewers. I'm Ricky."
Yes.
But yeah, yeah, Ricky Lake was cool. But then, we think about another famous female talk show host. That was Jenny Jones.
Oh, we really liked her too. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, she also, had a daytime tabloid talk show, and it was very eccentric.
Uh-huh.
It
Yeah.
was much
Yeah.
like Ricky's, I think. It was very edgy, very, it appealed to a certain crowd, young ones, young adults.
Yeah.
She would talk about like topics like bullying, teenage bullying, domestic violence, that kind of thing. And
Right.
she also got to the point where, I mean, she had some pretty low class guests on there. I think a lot of
Yeah.
these shows did, but
Yeah.
um, she started getting on this wave where she'd have guests on there, and then like somebody had a crush on her, like secret crushes, and you always wonder how does that play out because everything's really kind of scripted and everything, but these people obviously pretended like they didn't know what was up,
Right.
and she actually had things go south because of a show like this, and it caused a lot of legal problems for her, which I think ultimately ended her show. But
Yeah. Because, like you said, that's controversy. People love it. They love to tune into it. But controversy is serious and it brings serious baggage with it.
right.
And, it literally did lead to some tragedy. So,
Yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
I think not only was her show canceled, but I mean, I was kind of like, I think people were kind of calling for that. I can't remember, but I think
Yeah.
somebody actually in the initial situation, like died or something. I don't know. It was really weird. It
Yeah.
got serious real quick.
It did. It
It went,
really did.
it went red. But
Scary.
yeah, but so I do miss Jenny Jones though. She was very. I mean, she's part of that era. You can't not talk about talk shows and not talk about Jenny Jones. So
On another side of things,
okay.
that nosedive is getting steeper and steeper. We start off with like Maury and Jerry Springer, right?
Oh yeah.
These guys are like class acts of their own. They started off serious guys, you
Hmm.
know, came on the scene addressing serious adult issues, truly seeming like they wanted to help their guests, wanting to help any viewers who might be dealing with similar situations. And then things just changed. It
Hmm.
just wasn't that anymore.
Hmm.
I mean, here you had Jerry Springer, who used to be the Cincinnati mayor, I believe.
Yep. Of Cincinnati, Ohio. I think back in the 70s or something like that.
Okay, so serious guy, right?
Hmm.
And now his show, I don't even know if it still comes on syndication or not, or I don't even know, but it's like his show turned to the circus came to town. I mean, it's like if you watch that show for any serious meaning or anything, it was lost. He would
Yeah.
always give I think he'd always give his Jerry thought at the end of the show,
Yes, he did.
where he
Hmm.
would try to give, and I think it was legit. He was trying to give a gem of wisdom to the hour-long chaos of nuts and peanuts were flying around and cotton candy and popcorn and clowns running around on the stage.
I can only imagine what his viewers are doing. I bet their eyes just glazed over when he was doing that. They were like,
I know.
"Oh, he's speaking English. I can't with that. Where's the fights?" Because his viewers were probably tasteless, just like the guests. And actually, Coop, did you realize this long running Chat Fest was declared the worst show in history?
No, what?
Yeah, it was loaded with bleak profanity and plenty of basement guests, like we just mentioned, not afraid to get on national TV and embarrass themselves.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, they would fight instantly. That's why people watched the show. They were looking to
Yeah.
see a fight, and
Oh my.
and if it didn't happen on its own, they would stoke it.
They would. They would. It's like when you've got bodyguards sitting right there on the front line of the audience, obviously there's going to be a fight. Come on.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Like bounce. They look like bouncers at a club. Yeah. Like they were always there.
Yeah, and I think one of them even spun off and got his own show.
No way.
Yes.
Is it the one big bald guy?
Yes, that's the one.
I can't remember his name. I can see his face.
I think Wilco? Steve Wilco?
Oh, you got more info than I do. I That might be it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was it.
I
And
think.
then you have You Are Not the Father. You Are the Father.
Oh, the shows are similar. They really are.
They are. I mean, yeah, that's serious to find out, the paternity of children. But I mean, literally every show was that. And, the guests would get on there and they'd spill their sob story and they'd bring out the 6 or 7 cattle call guys that, yeah,
How
one of these guys are
embarrassing.
the ones.
So embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a double. There's a double meaning to that. You're up here on national TV trying to get your 15 seconds of fame or whatever,
Yeah.
and there are 14 guys sitting there that they've given paternity tests to. That says a little more about you.
I do wonder how many of those guys were just in there because they're like, I want my 15 minutes of fame.
Them too. That's right.
Put me on your list.
And then another thing that made this classless, like, because it's like you think about other shows we talked about, there was always people on the stage on a panel.
Yes.
And like these people would always run backstage. Like they wouldn't stay in their chair. They'd always get so upset and they're kicking walls and throwing chairs and running backstage and throwing tantrums and just completely making a mess.
Yes. And like you said, the first few people who did that, when they went backstage, it was definitely backstage, right? Then it was so much that they ended up dressing up backstage because it just became part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not supposed to see all that.
Right?
Where'd the class
Oh.
go? Good grief. And then we have another male that had his own talk show, and that was Geraldo Rivera.
Yes, I remember Geraldo.
Yeah, his show aired from 1987, I believe, to 1998.
Mm,
Uh,
That's
with
that's
with
a long chunk of time.
It is with those last 2 seasons, like he was then called. First, it was just Geraldo, but then it was like the Geraldo Rivera show in those last two seasons.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But his show, like you could just look at him, like he could tell that he was looking for controversy.
Yes,
He,
yes, yes.
he had his signature Pringles mustache. And he would just he probably was just reading the room, reading his panel. Like he's like, what can I do to upset you? He loved upsetting people, seemed
He
like.
did. Like he'd go, this is the controversial topic, and he'd find that hot button and he'd
Yes.
press it.
Yeah, he would hard.
Yeah, it was literally like he would stomp on a person's foot verbally.
Geraldo, you gotta play nice with the other kids.
I remember that time, talk about chairs flying and stuff. I don't remember if he was actually punched or if he was actually hit in the face with a chair. I don't remember now, but
Oh, okay, yeah.
he wore that badge for a few days, I think. I think he had a broken nose and a couple black eyes. Like, oh.
Yeah, that's hardcore.
Yeah. I don't know if any other host had been accosted like that. Like he might be getting the award on that one.
Geraldo. And he's still in talk. I think he does a show currently now. I'm not sure which one because I don't really watch a lot of that kind of TV, but I do actually think he's still in play.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. There's still a lot going on. He's got a lot to say, I'm sure. So yeah.
So I've heard. Now, one more class act we have before we get to our big entry is she was totally a class act was Rolanda.
Yes. Was it Watts?
Yes, Rolanda Watts.
I remember her.
She looked like a model. She was so classy and pretty.
She was. She
Yeah.
was.
So she was best known for actually hosting her eponymous namesake talk show, Rolanda. I think that's what it was called, just Rolanda. I don't think it was Rolanda Watts.
No,
The
I think it was just Rolanda.
Okay, okay, thank you. But her show was internationally syndicated from 1994 to 1997. So,
Mm,
um, yeah,
okay.
she would. I think her show was a little bit more like Lisa. A little more
Yes.
classy and
Yes.
talked about serious topics or subject that that appealed to the modern housewife or the modern lady of the time. So
Not the basement guests.
no, they were busy, with their eyes glazing over from the fighting. But anyway, but she also was a producer and an announcer on Divorce Court and Judge Joe Brown.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so she's also, we recognize her voice in, like a lot of famous cartoons and commercials. So she was like a voiceover in those as well.
wow.
Yeah, but so I mean she's been in I think like Days of Our Lives, a couple other soap operas. Like she's all over the place, but like she's refreshing to her fans.
So she definitely still has a career. Like it didn't
Hmm.
go anywhere just because her talk show ended. She's still very much in play.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And back to her show, like her show was definitely something that people enjoyed because she always seemed very kind-hearted and concerned and respectful to the people she had on as guests.
Right.
Hmm. So I
Yeah.
guess they needed more her or her the type of person she was in that realm. But real quick, remember we don't know that much about her particular show, but I think it was kind of a knockoff or going for the same demographic that Ricky Lake's show did. Was it Tempest, the one from Cosby show?
Yes. Yes.
Tempest. I think I don't even know if it lasted a year.
I don't think it did. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure it didn't.
And we liked Vanessa from the Cosby show, so it's too bad it didn't work out for her. But that's how big this trend was back then. Like again, if you could talk,
Yeah,
and
we had our own talk show again, remember? Yeah. So yeah,
that's right.
everybody does it.
That's right. And we were kids, so it was a little bit before some of these. So maybe they copied us. I don't know. Just kidding. We got Oprah, and who
Yeah.
doesn't know Oprah? Like she is like Phil Donahue was the pioneer king of talk shows, daytime talk shows.
Yeah,
Oprah is the pioneer queen.
she is.
Hmm.
I mean, anybody, she came from being like, I think, a local TV news reporter from where she was,
Yeah.
all the way to a list of her 10 favorite things that people will probably buy out. I mean, unbelievable what her career did.
Yeah. And what she did for others.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, how many spinoffs or connections happened because they knew her?
Yep.
You got Dr. Phil, you got Dr. Oz, I mean, it's like, oh, and their shows weren't small fries.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Dr. Oz is really doing anything right now. I don't think he's doing his, but Dr. Phil is.
And I think even like there's designers, I think personal trainers, cooks, well, like what you call it? Well, people who prepare your food for you, chefs. I think brain fart. But I think there's just been a lot of people's careers that really got jump started, like you said, from her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you remember the story, the Midas touch.
Yeah,
I think that applies to her.
that's right. If you
Yeah.
have your own book club, you know you arrived, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And she even helped her best friend, Gail.
Yep.
And I think
Yep.
Gail's in the circuit now. Like, I mean, she's got her own talk show or she's on one. Like, she's doing her thing. Like, she's in.
Right.
So she's probably like, thanks, girlfriend. But yeah, but we're getting ready to, tie off our discussion this week. But we think back about like one of our classier entries this week, and that was Rolanda. I don't know, just the fact that she didn't just stay to that demographic with just having the talk show. She did other things. She was in media.
Hmm.
And that one of the things that impressed us this week was the fact that she was a voiceover and announcer for a couple of famous judge shows, which were also a big thing, all the rage back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be discussing next week.
So stay tuned.
Yes, so get your little wheels rolling, think about all the memories you have of sitting and watching a good judge show or two. So I'm looking forward to that, Coop, aren't you?
Absolutely. And that's it for this week's Apple Snack. But as you know, there's always more where that came from. So stay tuned. Subscribe, review, and spread the word. See you next time in the Retro Orchard, and thanks so much for listening.